So yet another day has passed where you have to fantasize about your crush from inside the friend zone. Tisk, tisk, tisk. How long have you been in there? Days? Weeks? Months? Years? Do you feel powerless, hopeless, useless, pathetic? Well, you fucking should. You are in the friend zone after all. Suffering from the full effects of unrequited love. But don't worry, I'm here to help. I'm going to be teaching you how to deal with this friend zone situation of yours. But before we begin, I gotta know. Am I the only one on earth that didn't realize that there was a hand symbol for the friend zone? What the fuck? Anyway, let's talk about the friend zone. And we're going to go into detail with everything. How you got in there, why you're in there, how to get out. Let's go. If you think about relationships like a business transaction, then you being in the friend zone is like you getting a raw deal. It's an unbalanced exchange of values between you and your crush. You're giving her everything she needs in the relationship, and you're getting nothing you want in the relationship. That is the definition of a bad deal. And the fucked up part is, you actually accepted those terms. You see, I explain the friend zone like that because it'll help me segue into the first point I need to make here, which will probably be shocking to some of you. And that is, the friend zone is actually not a bad place to be. No doubt you've convinced yourself that the friend zone is the worst place to be. But if you really think about it, what's wrong with being in the friend zone? I've personally come to find nothing really. What's really wrong with being in the friend zone is not being in the friend zone, but how you get in it. The problem isn't that you're in the friend zone with your crush. The real problem is that you've chosen to remain friends with your crush, but not of your own free will and volition. You were forced into the friend zone. You were thrown in there, banished, regulated to the friend zone. That's the real problem. And I feel like that's something important to understand and point out because it changes your focus. Because if you think that the problem is that you're in the friend zone, then naturally you'll also assume that the solution is to get out of the friend zone. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Believe it or not, the goal isn't to actually get out of the friend zone, but to reestablish the terms and conditions within it so you can have more power. It's the power to leave and come back as you please that you actually want, not just to try to scramble to get out of there. A good analogy I can use to explain this properly is from the Superman vs. Batman movie. R.I.P. the Snyderverse, by the way. So Lex Luthor frames Superman for killing a bunch of people. And Superman, being the goody two-shoes he is, decides to undergo the court proceedings and justice system like any other person would. He stands trial and they decide to lock him up. And he allows them to put handcuffs on him and take him to jail, where he gets belittled and ridiculed by pretty much everyone on the outside watching. And even gets questioned by a know-it-all reporter, some bitch named Lois Lane. But notice what I said. He allowed them to put the handcuffs on him. Because again, to reiterate, that's fucking Superman we're talking about. We're talking about a being strong enough to move planets out of orbit. True story. Read the comics. Unless those handcuffs were made of kryptonite, there's no chance they have an effect on him. And yet, so as to not soil his reputation with the humans and the public at large, he allowed for the theatricality of his arrest, to show people that he was willing to abase himself and go through the court system like everybody else. If I'm not mistaken, at one point in the movie, he actually accidentally, absent-mindedly breaks the handcuffs. Because again, he's strong. He could have broken them anytime he wanted. And that is the perfect analogy for how I want you to be in the friend zone. Nothing wrong with you deciding to be in the friend zone. There's everything wrong with you being coerced and forced into it. I want it to be the case that even when you're in the friend zone with the girl in question, she knows that it's just a formality. You're allowing this to happen because you're so benevolent. If you really wanted to break out and never talk to her again, you could do that whenever you wanted. And from that dynamic alone, you will build so much healthy respect even in the friend zone. You can do whatever you want with a girl, be in the friend zone, buy her flowers, get married to her, as long as you do it from a place of power. So with that said though, how do we gain power in the friend zone? Well, in order to do that, we have to talk about how you lost it in the first place. And for the most part, there are only 3 reasons you're in the friend zone right now. The first is something I touched on in my shit test guide. You failed a test of compliance from her. Basically, she asked you to do something for her to see if you'll actually do it and become her little lapdog. And you did, which was a massive mistake because you accidentally communicated to her that you were willing to do whatever it takes to get her time and attention. And to reiterate what I said in my shit test guide is when you want to pass a compliance test, all you have to do is give her one in return. She has to do something for you first in order for her to get compliance from you. That way you set the dynamic of the relationship so that it doesn't just end up you being giving her compliance, but the both of you exchanging compliance mutually. And this is massive because it builds respect for your compliance. The first thing a woman has to do to be able to put you in the friend zone is to not have any real referential fear or respect for your compliance. The friend zone is designed to leech you of your time, resources, and energy. As long as you're putting some kind of a price on your time, resources, and energy, then no one's going to be able to just take advantage of you like that. The next reason you're in the friend zone is because you have failed to introduce sexual tension. I keep telling people the difference between a friendship and a romantic relationship is the possibility of sex. That's it. You have either incorrectly tried to or failed miserably at introducing sexual tension into your interactions with this girl. Either because you're scared to try, because you have to have some risk taking ability to bring up the sexual tension, or you're idealistic in your thinking because you think it'll just happen naturally, which it won't, or you simply lack sex appeal. Either way, I don't see how you expect a romantic relationship to commence if you're not going to try to make the attempt at creating romance. Unless you just want to stay friends forever. At some point, the onus will be on you to pull your balls out. Literally. She has to be made aware that you have a penis. That works. And then you have to convince her, charmingly and seductively, of course, that it's a good idea for her to put said penis in her body somewhere. So that jump you're scared to make needs to happen. And you know what I mean by the jump you're scared to make. Awkward moments where you have to make the big move and risk rejection. I understand it can be scary and very nerve wracking, but let me teach you how to get past these. The real trick is to not treat them like they're a big deal. It should be treated like something that just happened, just like the rest of the other things that happened. Subtlety and serendipity, those are the laws. If you find yourself pondering and overthinking your next move, you're doing it wrong. If you find yourself trying to linger or prolong your touch, you're also doing it wrong. Don't grab her thigh. Just graze your hand past it. And do it while she's laughing at one of your jokes so she barely notices your touch. And then over time, just leave it longer. The key is you want your touch to be gone so that she doesn't get the chance to pull your hand away. That way she doesn't have the opportunity to build negative compliance over time towards you. When you do decide you want to compliment her on the way she looks, go balls deep, but then pull out immediately. Damn girl, your ass looks nice in those pants. But mine looks nicer, so don't let it get to your head, okay? Or, God, the things I would do to you. Too bad you're the homie, though. So where are we going to eat? Or, you need to stop looking at me like that. It is not happening between us, bestie. Or, my God, you look delicious. Listen, do me a favor. I need you to, stay away from me for a second. Back up a little bit because I need these other women to know that I'm actually available and you're not with me. So, shoo. Or, my goodness, you look good. You almost look good enough for me to hit on you. Or even, so when are you taking us on our first date since you're clearly trying to seduce me with that dress? Again, I will reiterate the reason you're in the friend zone right now is mostly because of the lack of sexual tension and the interactions you have with your crush. The sexual tension is what makes it exciting, it's what makes it fun. That's what keeps her up at night thinking about you. If that doesn't exist, then neither does your romantic relationship. Now, for a lot of you watching, a lot of what I've said will be easier said than done. It can be scary to tiptoe that line, I understand. And for you, I have a special bit of extra advice. Stop being a little bitch. Do you want her or not?